Hello, everybody. So, a really frequent question that gets asked in the Able community is about replicated movement, networked movement, right? It's really not a super simple thing to do, and I wish it could be simpler, but there are tools and things that we can use to make it simpler, and I'm going to show you kind of today how we can use some of those and implement them into Able as well. But first thing, if you want to know why movement is such a pain, and specifically networked movement, I highly recommend going and looking at Reed's channel. He has a video from a couple of years back about advanced network movement tutorial, sprinting and wall running. He goes over why a set walk speed server with a multicast and stuff doesn't really cut it. It just doesn't work correctly. And then he shows you like why it doesn't work, how like it lagging, and then he tells you exactly how servers talk to each other, and then he goes over how do you actually make it, blah blah blah, all with like, he goes into it in great detail. It's really, really good. But it's a lot of work, and it's all a lot of C++ as well. So there are things we can use these days to simplify movement. One really easy one, if your game isn't competitive and it's not PvP, for example, you can just use client authoritative network characters. If cheating isn't something you're particularly worried about, like it's just a co-op experience and it's not competitive in any way, this is a really easy way. You just drop it in and it works. You can have like co-op like characters that just replicate all their movement no matter what it just works, right? Pretty cool. And if you do have the need for properly replicated movement that is going to be server authoritative and everything, then I really highly recommend ReadyDev Smooth Movement 2, Smooth Networks Movement plugin. There's a few problems here. One is that there is legitimately zero documentation, which makes it a little bit hard to work with. Especially if you're not sure what you're doing. But I've had a little play around with it, and I'll show you kind of like the gist of it. And then there is a Discord as well. Reddy is very active on there. He will answer questions, so you're not completely on your own. You can go and have a chat with him, and he'll try and help you out if he can. But yeah, it's a really cool movement plugin, and I'm going to show you how it works now. So you just download the zip. And it will like come up here, we'll like unzip it and drop it into your current project. So in this case, I'm doing a game demo. You'll make a plugins folder, drop it into here, and then that's it. When you start up the project the next time, it will say that the plugin needs to rebuild. Just hit yes, and it should boot up fine. Haven't had any issues with that. It just seems to work correctly. Okay, so we have a completely empty project. All I've done is gone into plugins. I've enabled Able because we're going to be using that, and also Smooth Movement 2. I believe it just turns on by itself. You don't even have to enable it. It's like a not installed thing because it's part of the project, so it just enables itself. And yeah, so let's go over Smooth Movement 2. We'll make a quick dash and like movement type function, and then we'll put that into Able and try and do something cool with it. So first things first, I highly recommend going into settings and on your content browser, and we'll show plugin content, because we're going to come in here and we'll go to plugins, Smooth Movement 2 content, and in the third person blueprints, you'll find BPCMC. This is a blueprint class that Reddy has made that is actually kind of like a pretty good example. So I'm going to copy that, come back to my content, and we'll just put it in here. We'll rename it mine, just so I know it's my one. So how do we change the class of the movement? It's pretty easy. Just click here, and you'll see that you actually have a component class. So we'll drop down, and you'll see BP CMC mine. So now we have our own movement component on the character. Brilliant. So let's open it up. What have we got? So first thing we see, we have a prediction property boolean. So this is a way of taking any variable you've put on the side, and you can now make it a properly predicted property, which means it will replicate correctly through the network, and it should correctly work. So in this case, the predicted property we're starting with is sprint var, which is just a boolean. You have other property types. You can do add predicted. So there's a boolean, a byte, a double, a float, a tag, an int, a quote, you know, whatever. Pretty much, you can have any predicted variable you pretty much want. And then we can do something with it. So in this case, if we look at, we have a couple of things overridden. We have get max speed. This is an overwritten function. And if we look in here, we're just saying, okay, this is our parent code. So normal get max speed function is running. And then if the sprint variable is true, we're actually going to override it, and we're going to return just a flat 900. So because this boolean here is replicated correctly through the character component, it should just work. And this means that no matter what lag and no matter what ping you have and stuff, it should correctly replicate. So if I come in here and I just do, let's get rid of jump. We don't need that. Cast to, it's the movement mine, right? CMC, we'll make that a pure cast because we know it's going to be that. Set sprint. So there was also a function on there, set sprint, and it does exactly what you think. So we shall do this when we set jump. We'll do that. And this one, or is it cancelled? I can never remember. So if we do this, yeah, I can hold down and then let go, and it would, there we go. So let's make this a bit more interesting. So let's say, well, first of all, let's make sure it works, right? As a listen server, we'll open up both. On the client, yeah, that seems to be working correctly. Okay, so, okay, and what we'll do from here is we'll set a new variable. We'll make this a little bit more interesting. So currently, when we get our max speed, it's set to 900. Let's make this a variable, right? Let's make it something we can change. So what we'll do in our set sprint, and we'll make a new variable, we'll call this sprint speed, and we'll set this just before we enable it, so we can make sure we have the correct order of operations. We want to know what value we have before we start sprinting. And we'll just drag this, drop it on here, and now we have a sprint speed. And if we come back to our character, we can see we have it here. So let's do a value like 5,000 just to really make sure that it's working. And we also need to make sure that we're using the value. So in our sprint speed, we will get that and we'll drop it in here. So now, when we start it up, when we start running, yeah, we get super, super fast because we're going all the way up to 5,000, and when we let go, it's stopping again. Cool. And if we check our client, you'll see that it's not working. The client doesn't know what to do. It's probably setting itself to 0 because that value doesn't know how to work. And this is kind of like, you know, it's obviously worse doing this than if you were to use RPCs, but we can fix this really easy. So we'll add a predictor property, and one thing to note is that this is a double precision float. It's not a single float. You could change that, I guess, if you wanted, but for this, we're just going to make sure that it's predictor property double. Predictor property float. Did property float. This one will work with, how do we even make like a single float now? I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, is it that? No. But anyway, yeah. So if you are using a normal like float variable in UE5, it is actually a double. So we'll drop that down, and I'll just put in sprint. Oh, sprint speed. And now we have that property predicted, and we'll check it on the client, and away you go. We should double check, right? Hold on. And does this replicate correctly? Sure, looks like it. Let's add some lag. So let's go into advanced settings, and we can do ping, right? Where's the ping stuff? Client, enable network simulation, everyone, and we'll do like a 500 and a 500 and a 5% packet loss. Pretty bad. It's not great. And we'll do that both ways just to super mesh shit up. And let's see. So it is going to lag. It's not like it's going to just work, but you can see there's a lot of lag there. Wow. Maybe that's way too much lag. Wow, oh, okay. So let's see what happens. So even with this much lag, you can see that it's really, really trying. Even with the added speed, we can walk, and then I can like. So that's pretty impressive. If you were to try that with like RPCs and stuff, your characters would just be absolutely all over the place. So maybe let's do something a bit more reasonable though, like 100 or something out of the day, and like a 2. I don't really know what is good for those simulation settings, but maybe this is a bit more reasonable. So this is like a semi-bad lag situation. It's working okay. Cool. Okay, so in that case, then, how can we, put that into an ability? So let's make a sprint able ability. So let's do sprint, and we're going to need a custom task. So we'll create a folder. Actually, we'll keep this tidy. Abilities, and we'll put sprint in here. And we'll create a new folder called custom tasks. If I could spell. And I'm just gonna just making folders all over the place. And now we'll look for custom task. Able custom task. There it was. And we'll call this sprint task. Something like that. It's quite particular to sprinting, and what you'll see when you open up a custom task is pretty much nothing. What you're going to want to do is you'll see that we have a bunch of overridable functions, and they're fairly self-explanatory, but obviously we're going to be making it, so let's have a look. So some of the most important ones are on task start end tick. Is single frame also really good? And yeah, let's have a look. So we'll do an on task start. And this is the context of the ability. If you've worked with Able much, you'll know that all your abilities have a context, and from there you can grab like the owner of the ability, the current targets of the ability. So as a task, you're able to use that information from whatever is inside of the current ability's context. So in this case, what we're going to do, we'll get our owner, and we will cast this to the third person character. In your game, you're probably going to have interfaces, and you can like set up, stuff to make this easier so you don't have to cast, but demo and all that. So we'll just cast to our third person character, and we'll get our movement component. Oh my god. Where? Okay, get character movement. Jesus. Cast to mine, and we will set sprint. So on task start, we're always going to want to set sprint, and we're going to drag this out and promote to a variable. So this is going to allow us to make this variable public, and we'll expose it. I don't think you need to expose it on spawn. As long as it's instance editable, when you add it to here, it will show up in the task properties. So we'll see that in a second. So we'll put the sprint speed there, and then on task end, we will do the same thing. We'll kind of just copy and paste this. And we would do something like that. And naturally we would turn sprint speed off. Yeah, so that is that. And that's pretty much all you need. Actually, no, it isn't all you need. I'm wrong there. So in this case, we don't need on task tick. We're not doing anything. We're doing it based on the start and the stop. But we probably don't want to start and stop in the same frame. That wouldn't make much sense. So is single frame, we're going to override that. And we're going to, so by default, it's actually true. But just by overriding it, it will return a false. And what this allows us to do, if I have a look, so if I add the blueprint custom sprint task, and you'll see that it has a length. So if I come in here and I say actually this is true, and then we recompile, you'll see that this is now just a single frame, and you can't actually change the length of it. What you can do is make this a variable, and we'll make this editable again. And we'll recompile. And then now you'll see that there's this here. So if I make this false, now I can do it in real time. I can change it. So that's some cool stuff that you can do with, overriding the functions and setting parameter variables. So let's just do this. Is single frame. Just for now, that'll do. And then we'll quickly recompile this. So in this case, we want from the start of the ability to the end, we'll set our sprint speed to 5,000. And that's it. Let's quickly, so instead of doing this now, what we will do is we will put an ability component on the character. And we will make a quick function to start enable ability. So let's create a context. Now the ability context is the thing that, funny enough, gives the ability context. It holds your information like your owner, your instigator. It's where you'll save your target data. You can put locational data in there, and it will be the kind of central place for all of your tasks and data to be pulled from. So if you need, if you have a character stat that says, oh, my sprint speed is actually this much more, then in the sprint task, you could, pull from your character, get a increased speed stat, and then you could do your math in here and put it in there, right? So through the context is how you're going to connect to the outside world. So that's quite an important thing to remember. So sprint speed, we're going to go, let's create this. We're going to create our ability context. We'll use this from a class. Get owner will be self. Get controller for the instigator. And then we'll activate the ability. No. We'll do this real quick, and then I'm just going to collapse the function, and we'll call this activate ability. We will quickly drop this onto here, and we are good. So now we can pick sprint, and when we press space, we now get 1 second of sprinting at a speed of 5,000. Nice. So that is the task happening over this much. So let's just make it a bit more visible. So let's play an animation. We're gonna don't have much to pick from here, so we'll just use the jump. Let's just put jump, right? Use jump, and we'll see the animation's a little bit shorter than the thing. So what we'll do is we'll just make this match 0.87. 0.87. And one more thing, this might still have like a little bit, this might be a bit too big. So when you resize things, just it's usually best to just resize the task, because this might still say 1 second as it end, and it might actually run over the the ability, and then it gets a bit confused. So just wiggling the task around can renormalize it to make sure it's within the task range. And we'll have a look. Let's see what we get. So if I press space now, that's, yeah, a little boost of speed while we're jumping. Cool. So that's like a way to do a sprint. Now, obviously, if we wanted a sprint, we can do is looping in a passive. And then what we should see is, cool, okay. And then this will now just kind of last forever, so I should be able to just, there we go, we'll press space once and off we go. We're just going to keep sprinting. You can stop and, you know, it's going to do whatever. So let's make that a bit more interesting. Let's say that it's channeled, and we're going to have an input check. In this case, I'm going to use enhance input, and we'll check for my jump button. So if my jump button isn't pressed, then it should stop channeling, I believe. So every tick, it's now going to say, is that button pressed? So if I hold down space, yeah, so if I let go, it will stop. So if I hold it down, we can keep sprinting. And if I let go, it's going to stop. And that works over the network as well. Pretty nice. Okay. Remember, we got quite a bit of lag going on here, so this is not doing too shabby. Okay, so that's like a sprint, right? We've got a little animation set up. You could also do something like, we could add another one, and we could do a velocity check. So if our velocity threshold is less than, oh god, yeah, maybe let's just do 1. I don't know. I've never done a velocity check, actually. So how does this work? Oh, okay, well that doesn't do much of anything. That's like instantly coming out of it. Do I need to negate that one? Yeah, okay. So negating that velocity means that if my velocity is 1 or less, then it will then cancel it. So I'm still holding down the sprint button, but I'm going to stop, and now it's cancelled the sprint. So if I actually make this more like 100, for example, and I can hold down sprint as much as I want, if I run into a wall, it's gonna eventually stop me. So that will give you that sort of behavior that you sometimes see in other games. Even 100's a little bit much, so maybe let's do like, I don't know, like 250. Yeah, I don't know. You know, that kind of matches that sort of like channel behavior you might see in other games when it comes to sprinting. And then, of course, you could even do a custom one. So you could have a custom one in here, and that could maybe check, like, some games have it where it will only sprint if you're moving directly forward. So you could check the dot product of the camera to the character. And if you're off by a certain amount, you could then cancel that channel. Sorry. You know, you can do a lot of stuff with like that in there. So yeah, that's like a pretty in-depth look at, you know, kind of a sprinting task with smooth movement. Let's look at like how you might do a dash, because that's slightly different. So it's another way of working with speed movement. I thought, even though they're fairly similar, it's something we could look at. So Not sure if this is a good way to do it, by the way, but this is just something I randomly kind of came up with. So, and again, there's no documentation on this, so I don't know if it's good, but let's have a look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a set dash, and we will do a velocity multiplier. We'll make this really easy. We'll make this a float. And I'm going to override calculate velocity. And I'm going to add a call to the parent function, which you should always do, because in this case, these functions are doing things and they are working to make your character movement work. So if I unhook this, I cannot move. the movement component is no longer calculating any velocity. It's just returning 0. But if we add the parent again, we're good to move. So in here, you could say like, oh, if if sprint var is you could put a branch in here and say if this is this, then do this, but if it's not, then you could like set velocity to something else. Like you can interrupt the normal flow if you want, or you can kind of put something on the end of it, like a separate check. So in this case, what we're going to do, we don't want a sprint var. We're going to have a dash var, which is going to be a boolean, and then we'll have another one of these, but it will be dash power, and then what we'll do is if dash variable is true, we will get our velocity, and we would times it by our dash power, and that's what we'll set our new velocity to. And then, because we only really want to do this, like it's a dash, right? So it's a quick thing. So what we'll do is we will turn off our dash. It's one frame. It's one frame of adding a bunch of velocity, and then we're removing it again. So that in theory should do basically nothing right now, because there's still something very important we need to do. We need to set our predictive variables. Otherwise it's not going to work over the network. So we'll do dash var, and we'll set our predicted double again to dash power. In our set dash, we'll now have to set these. So set dash, we'll do, we'll set the power first. Probably should have named these like similar, but whatever. We'll set the dash power, and we'll set that. Probably put that first. And that's pretty much it, because the dash itself is going to handle turning itself off after one frame. So let's try it out. So let's get rid of this, and we'll get our movement component, cast to CMC mine, and set dash. And our dash power should be like, I don't know, like what, 5? We'll just see how far it throws us. Okay, and there's a little dash. Boing, boing, boing. Obviously it hasn't got any animation or anything right now. And it's pretty simple. It's just kind of like adding a bunch of velocity over one frame, and then the normal velocity checks are coming in. It's adding all the friction and stuff, so it's just one frame adding a bunch of velocity, and then normal physics will take over again. And it works pretty good for the most part. Again, this is a super laggy scenario, so this isn't going to be really representative of what you'd actually entail, but Yeah, it still works pretty good. So let's put that into a task. Let's just copy this and we'll call it dash task. And it's going to be very, very similar. So we'll actually just do set dash. We don't actually need that, and this will be a single frame, so we don't need that, and we'll call this dash power. And we'll pop that in there. Okay, so we just duped the sprint. We removed a bunch of stuff we didn't need because we don't need on task end. It's always going to be a single frame because it's just that one pop. And we've just put renamed some stuff, and we got our set dash. And now let's have a look at making an ability for it. Let's just reuse sprint. Let's take away the sprint task and blueprint custom dash task. You can change that, by the way. If I come into the dash task, let's override the task category, and I can call this movement. And then we'll recompile. And you come in here and it will be under movement. You'll see you have your dash task. So overriding these different functions here will allow you to change the task color, description, task name. You know, you can programmatically put this stuff in if you want, so it will give you like detailed information. But anyway, so we have our dash. We don't want it to be a passive, or maybe we want it to be passive. We don't want it looping. We don't want it channeled. We'll get rid of all that. So we've got one little dash, and it's got our little thing. So now if we, oh, is it plugged in? No, there we go. And now we should, if UE will work. Hello? Okay, well that doesn't want to work on the client, but, oh, interesting. Why will the client not work? Was it just being weird? Yeah, it was just being weird. Okay. So one thing I forgot to do here, if we go into the sprint, I didn't set a power. So let's do like 10, 120. Oh my god, that might not be good. And then yeah, we can wee. And there you go. There's like a really, really simple dash ability that is networked and should work as correctly as you can reasonably do through Blueprint and everything. So yeah, there you go, guys. I hope that helped. I hope you learned a little bit something about Able, as well as how to work with a couple of these tools. So yeah, cheers, guys. Thank you very much.